I floated out of my body, and the room around me came into vision, and there's this huge dark figure standing next to my bed. It was probably like 7 feet tall, and it was basically just like a dark silhouette, like a big shadow.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Paranormal Portal Podcast. I'm your host, Brent Thomas. Thank you so much for joining us. As always, we appreciate all of you out there, and thank you so much for your wonderful support. Remember, if you've got an experience and you'd like to be a guest on the show, please reach out to me. You can reach me at paranormalportalradio@gmail.com. We got a phenomenal show lined up for you guys today. I am joined by Vincent Field, who is an author of an incredible book, Astral Projection and Lucid Dreaming, Spiritual Revelations and Out-of-Body Experiences in Higher Dimensions, a complete guide to exploring non-physical reality, which is a marvelous book. I highly recommend you check it out. It's out on Amazon, and Vince is joining us today to talk about his many experiences with paranormal phenomena. So we're going to get right into it. Buckle up, ladies and gentlemen. It's going to get spooky. Hey, Vince, welcome to the show, man. Thanks for coming on.
Hey, thank you for having me on.
Absolutely, brother. I appreciate it. And I'm really excited to hear about the things you've experienced. And I know it's kind of a canned intro, but I think it makes the most sense to start at the beginning. So where did this all start for you?
Okay, for sure. I started having paranormal experiences when I was 14 years old. But before I get into them, I think I should explain the context of these experiences, just so everyone understands exactly what's going on. So when I was 14, I started practicing astral projection, which is essentially a type of out-of-body experience in which your consciousness leaves the physical body and travels into higher dimensions of reality. And these dimensions are typically called the astral dimension, although the astral dimension actually consists of a multitude of different dimensions. And so basically, reality consists of an entire spectrum of various dimensions that exist at different frequencies of energy. Okay. You know, it's similar to how there's different frequencies of light, and we can only perceive a limited range of these frequencies, and the rest of the light spectrum, like infrared, X-ray, microwave, these are all invisible to us.
Sure.
So there's higher dimensions of reality that are beyond our perception when we're grounded in the physical body. But when you have out-of-body experiences, your mind and your consciousness enter these higher dimensions. I call them non-physical dimensions. So like I said, these dimensions exist in a spectrum, and the closer the non-physical dimension is to the physical dimension, the more similar it appears to the physical. Okay. And I consider these to be lower dimensions because they exist at a lower frequency on the spectrum of non-physical reality. And the farther away the dimension is from the physical dimension, or the higher the frequency is compared to the physical dimension, the more reality diverges from the physical world, and the unique and unusual and abstract that dimension is.
Okay.
So when you start astral projection, it's most common to project into the lower dimensions in the beginning of your practice, and as you develop through experience, you begin to access higher dimensions. And I also think I should mention now that when you astral project, your consciousness shifts from the physical body into the energy body, or you could also call it the astral body.
Yeah.
It's basically the non-physical body that you occupy during out-of-body experiences. Some people might call it the spirit body, but it's made of pure energy. And so the energy body separates from the physical body, and you navigate the astral dimension from within your energy body, just like we navigate the physical dimension from within our physical bodies. So let me start by telling you some of my more frightening experiences.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
So the first one was when I first started astral projection. It was during one of my first out-of-body experiences. So I floated out of my body, and the room around me came into vision, and there's this huge dark figure standing next to my bed. It was probably like 7 feet tall.
Oh,
and
man.
it was basically just like a dark silhouette, like a big shadow,
Okay.
just standing there facing me. And I was just completely shocked, and I was terrified, and I was instantly pulled back into my body. It was like my fear triggered this reflex that brought me back to my body, like automatically, almost like a kind of like protection mechanism.
Mm-hmm.
And so I calmed down, and I decided to give it another try.
Okay.
And I lifted out of my body again, and this shadow being was still there. Like, it never left the side of my bed. It was just waiting for me.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I freaked out again, and I snapped back into my body.
Wow.
And so I encountered these shadow people a lot in the early days of my practice. And this is because they seem to exist in the lowest non-physical dimension, like the dimension that's just slightly higher than the physical dimension.
Oh, okay.
And I almost always found them right next to me, like just waiting for me and watching me as I was separating from my body. Like somehow they knew that I was about to project from my body.
Oh, wow.
So sometimes they would just stand there looking at me.
Mm-hmm.
But other times they would come towards me, like they would try to grab me or something. I discovered that if I just remained calm and ignored them and continued with the experience, I would shift into a dimension that was higher than the dimension that they exist in, and they'd be gone.
Wow.
And eventually I started to completely bypass this lower dimension during my projections, and I stopped encountering them altogether.
Now, can I interject with a question, if you don't mind? And this is something that I've heard throughout the years when the discussion of astral projection comes up and training yourself to astral project. And there are those that think or claim that there's a danger to it because of those low vibrational entities. Do you think there's merit to that, or is this a true statement in your experience?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
It's just like the physical world. Mm-hmm. There are good people, there are bad people, and there are dangers, right?
Okay, sure.
And in a little bit, I'll share some of my experiences that have proven to me that there is a level of danger to this.
Okay.
It's just like anything else, and that's not to say like you shouldn't do this or like, it's some kind of like bad or evil practice.
Mm-hmm.
But
right.
You got to be aware of these things.
Yeah. It's just like moving into a new neighborhood, I suppose. You know which areas to avoid and which ones are okay, huh?
Sure.
Okay.
I hear a lot of people who practice this, or they're just interested in the subject, and they basically shun this idea that there are, negative or malevolent entities out there, or that there's danger. I think this is kind of an extreme position, and I don't think it is accurate.
Okay.
So the shadow people weren't an issue anymore. I stopped encountering them. But soon after that, I began encountering entities that were a lot more frightening. I mean, at least to me.
Oh, man.
These entities looked like a typical alien, like a big head, short, skinny body, the big black slanted eyes.
Oh, okay.
So one of my first experiences with these aliens was during an out-of-body experience. So I was out flying around the astral dimension, and I seemed to be attracted to this one particular house in the distance. Like something was like calling me to it.
Mm-hmm.
So I go into this house and I'm looking around, and suddenly there is an alien there with me, and its head looked like a giant bug, like a praying mantis.
Oh no. Okay.
And at this point, it seemed like I experienced a period of like missing time, because I mean, suddenly the alien was gone, and I could tell that time had passed.
Oh.
And I knew something happened. I knew something happened with that alien.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like the memory of it like was blocked or like erased. Like it was somewhere there in my mind, but I couldn't access it, you know? And I always got a bad feeling when thinking about that experience, like on a deeper level, like I knew something happened and there's a reason why I couldn't remember.
Yeah. Oh God, that'd be horrible. Especially in that state, because I think especially when you're new to an experience like that, it's already unfamiliar, but then to have the impression that, wait, something really happened during this and I don't know what it is. That's got to be really quite terrifying.
Yeah, certainly.
Okay. Wow.
So soon after this, I began being visited by these aliens on a regular basis.
Oh.
This was like, I don't know. That was like my introduction to them. Mm-hmm. And then they just came at me like full force after that. So a lot of times they would appear in the moments just before separating from my body.
Okay.
And what happens is usually your consciousness will shift beyond the physical dimension just before the actual separation from the body. So you'll be lying in the same space as your body, but your consciousness will already be in the astral dimension.
Oh, okay.
And so I would be in the state where I was basically paralyzed, like I was stuck in my body, but at the same time, my consciousness was perceiving the astral dimension. So I was looking into the astral dimension, and I would find one or more aliens next to me, standing around me. Sometimes they'd be like bent over, looking like closely into my eyes. And these situations were some of the most terrifying experiences that I'd ever had until that point.
Oh man.
Actually, my whole life, I was afraid of aliens, like especially as a kid.
Okay.
You know, watching them in movies like true stories about alien abductions. Mm-hmm. They would just terrify me like more than anything else. And so now I'm basically like being stalked by these aliens, and it's like a nightmare come true.
Yeah, and you don't know what they want, but they seem to be wanting you for whatever reason. That's creepy.
Exactly.
Wow.
So these aliens looked almost identical to the aliens that Whitley Strieber describes. One of them is actually the image on the cover of his book Communion. So It's basically like a large, like triangular shaped head, the big black slanted eyes, and a light orange skin color.
Oh, okay.
The skinny body and all that.
Yep.
And so sometimes these aliens would affect me with this energy, and it felt almost like electricity going through my body. Mm-hmm. I mean, I've never been electrocuted. I would assume it's very painful. It wasn't very painful, but it was definitely very uncomfortable.
Okay.
And, there's often a strong sensation of energy throughout the body in the moments before astral projection. Oh. And this is actually your own internal energy being activated. But this was different. This energy had like an artificial quality. Like it wasn't my own internal energy.
Okay.
And it induced this like deep state of fear. Like I could sense that this energy was coming from these aliens, and that they had bad intentions. I knew that.
Wow.
So one characteristic of these aliens that was pretty disturbing was that they almost seem robotic or like mechanical at times.
Okay.
Like sometimes their heads would twitch from side to side, and they seem like unnaturally stiff and jerky in their movements.
Okay.
This is interesting because actually this corroborates with what other abductees and researchers have found, which is that these beings might not be entirely biological, but are actually like mechanical hybrids, like a fusion of robot and biology.
Okay. Yeah, I've heard that as well.
So during these experiences, I would either struggle to break free and come back to waking reality, or other times I would just black out. And this would sometimes be followed by dreams about being followed by UFOs, being abducted, and all this wild stuff.
Yeah.
And this is also an element of a lot of alien abduction cases, which is that they always have dreams, these really vivid and intense dreams involving these situations. I think that some of these experiences are physical, real world abductions. I think some of them are probably astral dimension type experience.
Now I'm wondering, it's very interesting that you're experiencing them in the astral state. Do you suppose that is maybe where they live, in some vibrational, whether it's a dimensional reality or whatever? But a lot of abductees have, when they're abducted, they report almost feeling like they're moved to a ship, but could these experiences be astral as well as physical, or could these be one and the same of what people experience when they abduct, or do you think it's a separate entity altogether?
Yeah, that's a great question, and this is something I talk about in my book, and it's also something that I was planning on mentioning here. So,
okay.
I 100% think that at least in some cases, this is the case. It's not a physical experience. It's an astral experience. There are a lot of similarities between these two experiences, alien abductions and astral projection.
Oh, okay.
So one common aspect of the alien abduction is a state of paralysis that occurs usually just before the aliens appear, or just before the person is taken from their bed. And this same state of paralysis happens, like I explained before, just before astral projection. It's basically the body falling asleep right before the projection takes place.
Okay.
And it's actually a totally normal occurrence, and it happens every time we fall asleep. The body enters the state of paralysis, so we don't act out our dreams.
Sure.
But usually we're unconscious for that. We fall asleep. But for the astral projection, you stay awake, your mind stays awake, so you experience that.
So that maybe does really explain the whole sleep paralysis thing. Not the medical version, but the supernatural version that people talk about, including seeing the old crone and all of that. So perhaps that's the lower vibrational entity that you were reporting when you were first projecting, is that maybe these people are being pulled into that experience just naturally. I'm not meaning that they're pulled like something is controlling, but I think that probably astral projection is a very natural thing for us to do. We're just not educated about it, with our Western ideologies especially. This is the unknown. This is the foreign experience that doesn't coincide with our idea of reality. So That's very interesting, and that does make sense to me. Thank you. That really kind of fills in a lot of blanks for me.
Cool. Sure. Yeah. Yeah. I totally agree. I think a lot of these experiences, the person is entering this out of body state with realizing it. And so they're able to perceive into these other dimensions where these entities either exist. I don't know if they live there or if they're just like visiting, like we visit like during the astral projection. But they definitely operate there. You know, I've had way too many experiences with them there for there to be any doubt about that.
That's really incredible. I think that makes a lot of sense. I dealt with sleep paralysis for a couple of years myself, and rather than what I had done, I don't know if I did it right or not, but it was more of a gut reaction kind of thing. After dealing with it for a long period of time, I learned how to fight out of that state, which is really hard because you can't move, you can't do anything. And so I got pretty adept at pulling myself back to a wake state. But I wonder if perhaps I was supposed to be projecting, or there was something, that's what I've heard as well, is that people that have projected, and I had a friend that could do that as well. He's passed now, but he would talk about you go into that sleep paralysis state, but then you got to relax through it. And I was like, oh, wait a minute. I did that wrong.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's kind of like an instinct to like resist that, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, if you go with the flow, go along for the ride, most of the times that will lead to an out-of-body experience.
Okay. That's really interesting. And that's good because it corroborates what I'd heard before. So again, you're really hitting a lot of them on the head for me personally. That's really awesome. Yeah.
Yes. So I think like the main difference between my experiences and a lot of these like reported abduction experiences is that, well, due to my experience in these altered states of consciousness, I'm aware that I'm actually in the out-of-body state, whereas a person who lacks this experience and discernment will probably believe that they're having the experience in the physical reality, and that, the aliens have paralyzed them and they're being abducted. And they don't realize that the paralysis is actually, a natural thing, and the aliens they're seeing are actually in another dimension, right?
That is
so another aspect of the abduction experience is like being lifted or levitated from the bed, and sometimes like passing through the roof, passing through the wall, going out into being sucked into some craft or something like that. And this is actually what happens during an out-of-body experience. There's no gravity in the astral dimension, so the most common way to move is by flying. And if you just let the experience happen, most of the time you will levitate, you'll float up out of your body. So, that explains that. And there's no physical matter in the astral dimension. So it's easy just to pass through, any object that you see out there.
Okay. But do you, I mean, I think this certainly answers some of the questions, but I do believe that people may actually be physically abducted. I don't know if you believe in aliens and have ever seen any. That was going to be one of my questions, that since you got their attention, did you ever notice things in the night sky like that you couldn't explain?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
My first UFO sighting was when I was 17 years old.
Oh. Wow.
I've had several, throughout my life.
Okay. Yeah, because I think they can jump. I think that they can jump dimensions is probably what it is. And so there is a very physical phenomena to this as well. But I think whatever they are and however they do it, I think they're just able to traverse the vibrational realities, so to speak, and end up sometimes in our plane. And the reason I say that is because there's been abductions reported where they were actually witnessed. People witnessed seeing the person being abducted, and so that certainly makes it a very real phenomenon as well. But I think you're absolutely right, because a lot of abduction scenarios are almost in many ways undecipherable, or it's hard to tell whether it's a haunting or an abduction just because there's very ghost-like quality to some of this stuff. And I think it really does help to answer some of the questions that perhaps it is more of a projection thing in many cases.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that some of these experiences are physical, real world abductions. But yeah, I think some of them are probably astral dimension type experiences.
Wonderful. Cool. So where are we going now?
Well, I have a couple other alien encounters that I think would be interesting to share.
Fantastic. Sure. Go ahead.
So let's see. Well, I discovered a way to make these aliens leave me alone.
Oh, phenomenal. What'd you do?
And what I did was I focused on my heart chakra. Okay, so it's like an energy center, energy body. And so I focused on this area right in my chest. And I basically cultivated a feeling of love during these experiences. And I projected it out to these beings, and they went away.
Oh, that's phenomenal too. And the other interesting correlation to that is that some people claim during these encounters that they've used prayer. And I think prayer is a projection of love as well. So it's the same philosophy. That's really cool. Wow.
Yeah, I've heard too about prayer, and I totally agree with that. And I have two theories about why this is the case. One of them is that these aliens are repelled by this energy of love, and that kind of indicates that they may be more like demonic type beings in the sense that like they're malevolent, they feed off of fear and negative emotions, and they're like repulsed by like positive, higher emotions.
Oh, okay.
And another theory is that when I cultivate this feeling of love, it actually raises my vibration. It raises my consciousness to a higher dimension in which these entities don't have access to, or they're not there anymore.
Yeah, that's brilliant.
Yeah, I'm not sure which one it is, but it works. That's the important part.
Yeah, for sure. If you can make a bad situation stop, that's automatically awesome. Yep.
Now, I had one experience which had characteristics of a physical abduction.
Okay.
I can't say for certain, but what happened was this one night I meditated, and the intention of this meditation was to get in touch with my spirit guides. I got deep into this meditative state, and suddenly I was in another place, and I was with these beings. And I didn't know where I was. I didn't know who they were. But, eventually I came back to normal waking consciousness. And I had this feeling like I had just been taken somewhere by someone and brought back. Like it wasn't me who projected, but like I was taken. But, I couldn't put my finger on, who it was or what happened. But the weird part was that I was meditating, listening to an audio track. And this audio track was half an hour long. But I got up and I looked at the time, and 2 hours had passed. So, I was confused. It didn't make sense. And I knew the track wasn't on loop. It wasn't on repeat. I was sure of that.
Yeah.
But, I let it go, and I meditated again, went into a deep meditative state. And then suddenly I felt this presence right next to me. And then I felt a hand touch my arm. And this freaked me out because it felt like my physical arm was being touched, like not like an astral experience. And I jumped up and I looked around and nothing was there. But I was a little freaked out. So I just, I went to sleep, and I woke up the next morning and I looked out the window, and I saw this light in the sky. And it wasn't the sun, because the sun was over on one side of the sky. And it was like this ball of light, just hovering there. And when I saw this light, it like triggered this memory that I had from a dream the previous night. And in this dream, I was abducted by aliens, and they stuck this long needle type instrument into my neck.
Oh, wow.
And I knew, like in this memory, I knew it wasn't a dream.
Mm-hmm.
But, after the fact, it's kind of hard to say, dreams and reality. Like when you have like lucid dreams, you're using your normal waking awareness. You're just in a different reality. So sometimes memories like that, it's hard to say like where it took place. Physical dimension, the astral. But yeah, that was a pretty unusual experience.
I think you're right. It is hard to differentiate between reality and those lucid dreams. I've had some of those, and those to me are the most magical, powerful things, because you become the controller. You become the architect of the experience. Now, I've never astrally project, so I don't know if that same empowerment is in a projection. But I love the lucid dreaming.
Yeah, they're definitely similar experiences. There are some differences because lucid dreams typically take place in like a subconsciously created reality, like a dream.
Yeah.
Whereas the astral dimension exists like beyond your own mind. So it's not as susceptible to like the influence of your mind.
Oh, okay.
So like it's easier to manipulate the lucid dream, to manifest whatever experience you want, and do whatever you want. Whereas you're a little more limited in the astral dimension.
Okay, I got you.
But there is still a degree of that power there.
That's good. Sure. Yeah, I mean it's nice because I think it's an intimidating idea for some, because of the warnings that are out there. And another warning that I had heard is talking about that umbilical of light that connects you to your body, and how that could be severed, and then you're trapped, and it's like, oh my God, why would you go there if that was the risk? But I don't know. Is there any merit to that?
Yeah, that's commonly called the silver cord.
Okay.
In the vast majority of my experiences, I've never seen it.
Oh, okay.
So, I can't say whether it exists or not.
Right.
But the severing of the cord, I don't believe that's true. I don't believe that happens.
Well, that's comforting, because, especially if it's a natural function that we may fall into many times without even knowing it, I think if we're at risk of having that cord severed and then we're stuck wherever we ended up, then, that would be terrifying.
Yeah. I think the reality of the mechanics of this type of experience, it's far more complex than like being attached to a string to your body. You know what I mean?
Well, that's good too. Yeah. If I'm just a balloon, an energy balloon, that's not a real comforting thing either. Right. Very cool. Okay.
And this was the most hideous thing I'd ever seen. Like, I could tell it was an old lady, but her flesh was rotten, and you could see bones like through areas where like her skin was rotted away. This one other frightening experience that was pretty unique for me, and I'd like to share that too.
Absolutely, please do.
So I woke up one night and I started to meditate, and I slipped into a really deep state. And suddenly I sensed this presence near me. And then I felt this like heavy, this deep sensation of energy in my left side, like inside of my ribs. And I looked, and there was a ghost, like face to face with me.
Oh,
like,
man.
Basically floating like horizontally over my body, like parallel to my body. And this was the most hideous thing I'd ever seen. Like, I could tell it was an old lady, but her flesh was rotten, and you could see bones like through areas where like her skin was rotted away. It was like something out of a horror movie.
Oh,
And
man.
it was kind of ghost-like because she appeared kind of like transparent.
Okay.
She had this long, messy hair that was kind of floating, like she wasn't affected by gravity.
Okay.
And I realized this ghost like attached itself to me, and that's that energy I felt. Like I saw this, like, I don't know, this energy, something like going into me from her. And the moment that she realized that I was aware of her, she opened her mouth and she screamed, and it was like this booming shriek.
Oh.
And it was just like absolutely terrifying. And I was like jolted back to waking consciousness. And I got up and I felt that energy like still there in my side for a little bit.
That's horrible.
Yeah. Well, what's interesting about this is that at that time, my wife and I had just moved into a condo,
mm-hmm.
and the previous owner of the condo was this old lady who had recently died.
Oh.
It makes me think that this was a ghost of that old lady, and maybe she was like angry that we invaded her home and she was trying to scare us out,
Right. Oh.
That's like interesting correlation there.
How did you get rid of that then? I mean, so this energy was attached, because we deal with spiritual attachments all the time. We have people that have those problems. How did you rectify that?
Well, I'm not sure if it was like a permanent attachment. That was the only experience like that I had with this ghost.
Okay.
Thankfully.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah. Wow.
We did have some other strange experiences in that condo. Like sometimes we would wake up and my wife would have these red handprints on her arms, like someone had been squeezing her arms very tightly.
Oh, wow.
And how do you explain that? Like, we had no explanation for that. It wasn't me. It wasn't her. And, there's no one else there. And so, I suspected that it could have been the same old lady messing with us, but
right.
Yeah, who knows?
Yeah, that's a weird thing that happens, that whole territorial nature. And maybe she didn't really realize she was dead, or maybe she did, or was in a state of confusion. It's hard to know, but man, when those things happen, it's absolutely terrifying. I've spoke to so many people who've been through similar situations, and it's like, wow. I think just having it in your face is about the most horrible way to wake up.
Oh, tell me about that.
That's terrible.
Yeah.
So that's incredible. But now you said you had some real positive things as well.
Yeah, for sure. So one of my first like incredible experiences was meeting my deceased great grandmother.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So in the early days of my practice, my great grandmother had died several years before that. And I wanted to see if I could contact her while out of body. So I projected from my body, and then I screamed out, "I want to see my great grandmother." Because at that point in my practice, I was starting to realize that if I stated an intention to have a particular experience when I was out of my body, sometimes it would happen. Now, like I said, with lucid dreaming, it's much easier to like manifest any experience that you want, because it takes place in like more of a mental dimension that you have more influence over. But it does work also in the astral dimension, just like not as consistently. So anyway, I stated my intention to meet my great grandmother.
Mm-hmm.
All of a sudden, it was like I blasted off with this tremendous force, and I was flying through space. Like I was passing stars and planets and like solar systems. I was just flying at like the most incredibly intensely high speed like I had never even imagined possible.
Mm-hmm.
It was like Star Trek, like when you kind of like do that teleportation thing.
Yeah.
So in the distance, I see this light, and I'm approaching this light, and as I got closer, I realized this was my great grandmother, and she was like radiating with this light.
Oh wow!
And so I was out there like in space with her. I was face to face with her, and we had this incredible conversation. And I wasn't able to remember exactly what we talked about, but I did remember this feeling during the experience. It was just a feeling of awe and love, and I knew for a fact that it was really her.
Oh, cool.
So during these experiences, sometimes you experience a type of connection. It seems like you're connecting with like a higher consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
And at these times, you experience truth. I guess that's the only way to explain it. Like, it's true.
Right.
And it's in that it's hard to really understand, in this body.
Right.
But so this is one of those experiences. Like I knew it was her, and I had other experiences with my great grandfather too. He died several years after that, and I had some encounters with him also, which were pretty incredible.
That's so powerful, and to think that you could reconnect with the loved ones as well in this, by I don't know if you say mastering, but by becoming familiar with this kind of projection, and I think that's a beautiful, beautiful thing.
Yeah, definitely.
Wow, very cool.
All those scary, negative experiences that I've had. Well, experiences like this. These incredible experiences that are sometimes just beyond words, they more than make up for the handful of bad ones.
Yeah, I think the intensity and the beauty and that feeling of warmth, it's just, I guess if anything, it's one of the big questions I think everyone has, at least at some point in their life, is what's next? Is there next? Is what is the game here? And to have that ability to touch and to interact with people that have gone on before us, I think is so powerful and reassuring. That's amazing.
Yeah, really. And even just the experience of having an out-of-body experience and realizing like you exist like outside of your body.
Yeah.
That also is pretty powerful.
It is, because you're right. We're conditioned to believe that we're these meat suits, that this is us, this is our identity. But in reality, it's just our vehicle to experience this life. But you're right. We are energetic. We are light. Yeah. Very powerful.
For sure.
Wow.
So some of my most profound experiences have involved something I call the higher self, which is basically like the highest or deepest level of your spiritual being. So how it works is that who we know ourselves to be in this life is just a small part of a much larger consciousness, but we're currently unaware of who we truly are at this higher level. And so the higher self experiences the physical world through a multitude of different lives and different personalities, and not just sequentially, like over time, but also simultaneously. So this allows like the maximization of experience and growth and learning that can be attained from this particular level of reality that we're currently in. So during these experiences, I integrate or merge with my higher self, and I experience what it's like to exist at that higher level of consciousness. And it's such a mind-blowing and beautiful and blissful experience. Like, it's truly beyond words.
Yeah.
But I think these experiences are one of the highlights of my book. And I have quite a few of them.
That's wonderful. I think your book is going to be definitely on my must-read list, because the whole reason that I do this show and the whole reason that I've undertaken this journey is because of the questions and wanting to understand what is going on here, because people are having experiences. There's something going on that supersedes physics as we know it, and can break the rules, and it shows that there's so much we don't know. And I think this is one avenue that I've never really explored personally, but I can see, especially after talking with you, the powerful tool that it can be in order to give us a glimpse, maybe the true glimpse of reality, of what it is. And that's really exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. For sure.
Wow.
So going back to the alien topic, not all of the experiences with aliens have been negative.
Oh, good.
A couple of them have actually been really like revelatory and profound. So I've had experiences with different groups of, I guess maybe you want to say, species of aliens.
Okay.
And, not all of them seem to have the same agenda. During one of my out-of-body experiences, I found myself in a spacecraft, and I was surrounded by this group of aliens, and I could see that we were out in space. And these aliens were different from the ones that usually harass me. They had light blue skin, and they just like radiated with this positive and friendly vibe. So I was pretty comfortable with them. And there was like this telepathic link that opened between us, and they were sharing all of this like profound knowledge, like stuff that I can't really process. Like I knew that they had just shared the most incredible knowledge with me, and it was like beyond my normal waking mind's capability of understanding. But
wow.
I can feel like it's there. I just I can't tap into it. I can't make sense of it. But one thing that I do remember clearly was that they told me that before this current life that I'm living, that I made an agreement with them, like some kind of like soul contract. And I made an agreement with them to have a relationship with them during this current life that I'm living.
Oh, cool. Wow.
What's interesting about that is that I've heard of something similar from other sources, other abductees, out-of-body explorers, spirit channels, past life hypnotherapists. I've heard that it's a pretty common, maybe not even common, maybe it's what we all do before this life. We kind of plan or like make a general blueprint of what we need to experience during this life for whatever growth and development our soul requires.
Yeah, very much so. I agree. It seems to me that the scope of this existence is to learn and to expand and to grow, and I think you're right. I think it's much like going into, elementary school. There's a curriculum involved with, each step of the way. And in order to go to the next step, you've got to pass the step, before it. And I think you're right. I think we do make these plans, some part of our, whether it's a higher consciousness or whatever, we probably, as you just suggested, we probably decide who we're going to be learning with in the, kind of planning our own curriculum, if you will. And I think that's incredible.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. I tell you what, Vincent, it's been an epic introduction to both you and your work, and it's extraordinarily exciting. And if you would please take a few minutes and let people know where to find your book. I know it's on Amazon, as we suggested, or I suggested at the beginning of the show, but how else can people stay in touch with you and what you're doing?
Okay, yeah, certainly. My book is available exclusively on Amazon, and you can get it in paperback, Kindle, and on Audible, audiobook. And that's pretty much it.
Okay.
I have a video series on a YouTube channel where I teach methods for astral projection and lucid dreaming, and I share some of my experiences. Mm-hmm. And I've also actually created some audio tracks that you can listen to while you're attempting an astral projection or a lucid dream, which will improve your chances of succeeding. And what these tracks utilize is a technology called hemisync or binaural beats. And basically, it's a tone that you listen to mm-hmm. that attunes your brain waves to a particular frequency that correlates with different states of consciousness. Mm-hmm. And so this, really speeds up the process. Oh, and it's really effective. I've been using this kind of technology on and off since I first started, and it really works. And so if you want to check that out, the YouTube channel is called Paranormal Conspiracies. Okay. And I'm featured in one playlist. I believe it's called Astral Projection and Lucid Dreaming. So yeah, you can check that out too.
Very cool. And the time flew. I know you and I both could talk for hours and never run out of things to say or to discuss, but unfortunately these shows do have a limit. But I just want to thank you so much for coming forward and for being on the show and sharing your knowledge and all of this incredible information, because for me personally, it's brought me to a whole different level of understanding, and I'm sure that our audience is going to love it as well. But you'll have to come back sometime and we'll continue this journey, because obviously there's a lot of things we didn't touch on, and there's so much more to discuss. But thank you so much for being here.
It's my pleasure, man. I really appreciate you having me. And, maybe we can do a part 2, because I do have a lot more to share. And, I can even share some of my tips and tricks that I've picked up over the years to, help you guys have your own experiences.
Outstanding, brother. Thank you so much. And this has been a great journey. It's been incredible. Fantastic.
Thank you, man.
Anytime. All right, guys, thank you so much for joining us here on tonight's show. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Please feel free to follow us on Facebook, facebook.com/Paranormal Portal Radio, as well as finding us on Twitter. We're on Twitter at Paranormal Portal, Portl. And we'd love to have you stop by our YouTube page and subscribe and check out our shows there. We got hundreds of shows, Journeys into the Paranormal Portal. So I hope you'll check it out, guys. We're over there at youtube.com/Paranormal Portal. So hope to see you guys soon. We'll be back, of course, for more podcasts in the coming days. So we love you all. Be good, be kind, be nice. Take care of each other. Help each other out. Find the magic in every day. And remember to laugh as much as you can.